All right, hello again. We are back with another episode of Great Villain Podcast. This is Justin, and here I'm with DJ.
Here we go, back at it.
And coming back at you with a Seahawks offseason, before the draft, a little preview, and a recap of what's happened to our beloved Hawks so far in this 2023 offseason. Now, we had a couple of huge signings. Biggest signing of the free agency Seahawks tenure of Pete Carroll and John Schneider, with the Draymond Jones helping out on the defensive line, as we saw some guys
swapping out the Broncos tackles here.
Yeah,
from one Bronco guy to the other Bronco guy.
Now, I read an article saying that we were trying to get Draymond Jones out of Denver instead of Shelby Harris, and instead we end up with Shelby Harris. He does.
Underperforms
for his paycheck. We end up cutting him and Quentin Jefferson this offseason, and we've brought in Draymond Jones on a three-year, $51 million contract, biggest contract handed out to a free agent in Carroll Schneider era. And then we also bring back Jerron Reed, who... long-time Seahawk, and...
It was funny because he refused to get restructured 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So then we cut him, and then 2 years later, he's back with us. I love the Jerron Reed bringing back.
Yeah, so do I. And filling out, just replacing a couple of those somewhat underperformers on the defensive line, and we really need a lot of help there. Now, one of the things, and we still need some more help. Do you think there's going to be another free agent signing along that defensive line, or no?
I don't know if there's going to be another one. It's possible you might bring back Poona Ford if the price is right.
He is a free agent.
A free agent, so that's the one that might get brought back, but I think it's kind of on the outs. I think if there's anything, it might be post-draft.
Sure, yeah. So now the guys playing behind that defensive line, that's looking pretty thin. We had a lot of free agents and some injuries to Jordan Brooks there at the very end of the season, but it looks like we made a signing.
Devin
Bush, yeah, the details aren't out completely yet, but it's a one-year deal. He's a former 10th overall pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers a few years back, and he got hurt, underperformed he was a standout physical guy.
I think it's a very solid signing.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be some more additions, whether it's through the draft or for another free agent signing. I know they had brought in another linebacker, too, when they brought in those three, and they've signed 2 of the 3 with Bush, Love, and there's another guy that they brought in. It was a trio.
Oh, it probably wasn't Bobby Wagner, was it?
It was not Bobby Wagner yet. He was before...
but it probably should be, right?
I do think Bobby Wagner is going to re-sign with the Hawks. There's a need with Jordan Brooks, not likely to be able to be ready for the start of the year with the torn ACL late in the year. So you do need some depth and some standout pieces. So
in the secondary, they added a guy, Julian Love, on a 2-year, $12 million contract. Now, what does that signal anything to you about the future of Quandre Diggs or Jamal Adams, or what does that say about how we're trying to play defense? Or
doesn't
say anything.
I think it hedges their bet in case Jamal Adams isn't ready to go. And that with Julian Love, they just fell in love with the player. The fact that he was calling plays in the New York defense. Mm-hmm. And so for the price is a little kind of steep when they're already paying Diggs and Jamal Adams. We're at a league high like $38 million for our safeties. But I think it's also they want to be able to play Jamal Adams closer to the line at the weak side linebacker. And so if they're all ready to go, then you sit in there, you got Diggs and you got Julian Love and then you got Jamal Adams that can kind of roam.
Yeah, so you're playing essentially a 3-3-5 defense with 5 defensive backs. You're playing a nickel, but sort of a big nickel with Jamal Adams more of a box safety. And then 2 safety, Quandre Diggs as the deep safety, sort of play your...
He's like your center fielder.
Yeah, he's your center fielder, so sort of the... Earl Thomas role from years ago, and then you still have your other safety that it's more or less another nickel out there. So they're gonna they're going to have a lot of different looks in that secondary because with Tariq Woolen, I mean, they got some players out there in the secondary. And I feel bad for opposing quarterbacks. You know who's not going to be an opposing quarterback this year for us? Geno Smith. He's signed.
Not going to be. He did re-sign.
Geno Smith signed, team-friendly, 3 years, 105 if he hits all of his bonuses. The bonuses are $2 million apiece if he pretty much bests this year's stats. So if he gets more than 9 wins, he gets $2 million. If he gets more yards than he got this year, if he gets more touchdowns. And if he does all that, well, you're not cutting him. But he did take it as a escalator to his bonus the following year. So, I mean, he could go and hit all of his bonuses, and then we can cut him, and he wouldn't get paid, which would be kind of shitty. But, you know, I don't think that's going to happen. But because he signed a massive, a wonderful contract for us, 3 years, 105 guaranteed, and very team-friendly terms, because he believes in team. And he believes... now, do you think he could have got more on the market?
I don't really think he would have got more. I'm not even sure if he would have gotten what he got on the market. I mean, you look at the marketplace, and it's kind of dry, right? I mean, Derek Carr resigned, Daniel Jones... Or Derek Carr resigned, but he signed with the Saints. Mm-hmm. And then Daniel Jones re-upped at the last minute.
He got like $40 million or something, right? I saw the
terms are they're kind of like the Derek Carr thing where it's all these teams, the Geno Smith and the Derek Carr and the Daniel Jones.
I just saw the headline then. I haven't actually looked at the real numbers and dug into the Daniel Jones numbers because like why are you giving him serious dollars when he hasn't really done anything for you, and he's part of the athletic quarterback group, but he kind of has never broken out in any real way. I guess last year was his real breakout, and that was pretty mediocre, if you ask me. Really happy that Geno Smith's back on a good contract. And I mean, there was some people scared that he could get upwards of $40 million, which always seemed a bit out of reach and not really very realistic, but, you know, people are a bit hyped.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because everybody's like, oh, there's collusion against all the quarterbacks. No, it's just teams are being smart and not paying everybody $45 million. Not every quarterback is worth $45 million.
No,
it's like in the NBA back in the day, where if you're 7 feet tall, you get a lot of money because you're tall.
Well, that's still that way.
If in the NFL they just like, oh, well, this quarterback got $40 million, so I deserve $42. No,
no, you don't.
Geno Smith got exactly where he was, right around that 25 mark. That's where I was comfortable paying him.
It's where everyone really wanted him to be. Yeah, is he a real difference maker on the field? No. Is he a fine quarterback? Sure. Yeah, actually.
I mean, what happens if they actually intercept all those balls last year instead of dropping them?
Yeah.
Would you be as happy? I mean, all those interceptions could have turned into 2 or 3 less wins, and then you don't make the playoffs. Do we even still want Geno back this year?
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes that he could have made on the field that didn't get caught up in the stats. And so if those go the other way, the season looks a lot worse. I do think there's still room for improvement from him, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And a 3-year, $105 million, if all the incentives are hit, is not bad. And it's an easy contract to get out of if he were to turn into a pumpkin. Though I don't think... I think he showed his actual talent. I think that's easily repeatable. I don't think it was so far out of reach for him, and I think there is still more upside to his game. And if he can reach that,
for the most part,
really nice.
Carroll and the staff put him in very positions to succeed.
Yeah.
They didn't ask him to be like, hey, go chuck the ball down the field every time, right? Like Russell Wilson liked to do.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's a little different of a player. And
he's good at checks downs, knows how to use his tight ends, uses running his backside of the field.
Yeah, he can do a lot more.
Much more of a quick twitch player than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson
I'd call him a more complete quarterback.
Kind of gets locked on players where Geno Smith is like, okay, that guy's not there, moving to the next guy.
Yeah, I think Geno is, like I said, it's just a more complete quarterback, and he's able to go through his progressions a little better and is able to do more stuff on the field. Now, if Geno were to get dinged up, he needs a backup, and the Seahawks secured their backup. Do you think it was a smart move for Drew Lock to come back to the Seahawks on a 1-year, $4 million contract?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess everybody kind of thought he was going to end up with Tampa Bay with our coach going to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And he could compete with Kyle Trask instead. Tampa Bay goes with Baker Mayfield. Good job.
Baker's not all that inspiring, but he's got a better track record than Drew Lock.
Okay, I think the Bucs are going to be shit anyway. So why are you paying for a quarterback?
They're going because have you seen the rest of that division? I mean, someone's got to win. Someone has to win that division. That's what happened last year. Is the Bucs sort of backed into it, and oops, okay. So yeah, the whole division is crap. Someone has to win. If the difference is Baker Mayfield or Drew Lock, and Baker gets you to the playoffs, then you go with Baker. It's kind of like, why are you, why go with a purposely worse choice? Saving a couple $1 million doesn't really help.
Does when you're $60 million over the cap.
Well, that's a mistake that these teams are. They got to pay the bill eventually. Everyone's got to come to a reckoning, and yeah, who knows? So protecting those quarterbacks, though, the Seahawks have made a couple moves. One, they cut Gabe Jackson, a rotational guard, last year on the right side. They cut him as just $10 million or something, so they saved a bunch. They re-signed Phil Haynes, the guy Gabe Jackson was rotating with, and Austin Blythe retired, so he has been replaced by Evan Brown on a 1-year, $2 million contract. I don't think any of that really precludes the Seahawks from looking for a offensive lineman in this draft.
No, I would expect them to draft some offensive line.
Interior O-line, at least one guy, possibly two, possibly on the first one on the second day or something, if there's a guy available, because they need some bodies up in there. They need some beef and just some better depth from younger bodies.
I mean, if that center is there when their second first-round pick comes around, I wouldn't be shocked if they use their second first-round pick on the center. Evan Brown isn't precluding anything. It's just a space needed to be filled.
You need someone to play as depth anyway, and it's better to have a veteran that's bounced around a little bit to play as that depth than just a bunch of rookies. So far as that goes, the Seahawks have lost a couple players now this offseason to other teams. There's obviously some guys still left unsigned, but a few that have been signed. A couple guys I actually thought was going to come back, one being Rashad Penny, who signed for the super cheapy deal with the Eagles, and then another 2 years, $4 million to Travis Homer to go to the Bears. And then also a different position, but Cody Barton as a linebacker, 1 year, $3.5 to
the Piggers.
To the Washington Piggers. My preferred name.
Commanders are a dumb name.
Yeah, that's a Cobra Commanders is a silly name. But the Washington Piggers would have been fantastic.
Their mascot's a pig. I mean,
they needed to take our advice. I don't know. We should have wrote more emails or something. Yeah, we lost a couple guys there. Are you really worried about any of those losses so far?
I mean,
would you have liked to have seen?
I wouldn't have minded if Penny wanted to come back on the same deal that he signed with the Eagles. I mean, because right now you're really thin at running back.
Yeah, I suspect. The problem is that does Rashad Penny really provide that much depth, considering how often this guy gets hurt? He's been hurt every year of his career. So, yeah, he looks good at the beginning of the season as a name on the depth chart, but how much can you really rely on a guy like that?
I don't know. It's hard to say because, like you said, he is injured. It will be interesting to see all these running backs on the market where they fall. There's running backs being floated around in trades, whether it's Austin Eckler or Derrick Henry, Zeke Elliott's out there. There's a lot of running backs that are available.
And Miles Sanders signed.
He signed.
And wasn't there another, the Bears guy?
David Montgomery, yeah.
Yeah, he's still available, isn't he?
No, he signed.
Oh, he signed somewhere. Yeah, there's some guys.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, Would you trade a 4th-round pick to get Austin Eckler on the Seahawks?
Is that all it would cost?
I don't think it would cost much more than that, just because there's so many running backs in this draft. It's a particularly deep running back draft. There's running backs going to be going every round. You got some high-end ones with the Robinson kid, and then there's a bunch of second-round ones. So I don't think teams are really gun-ho to sit there and, like, let's give a bunch of money to older running backs when we can draft a cheap replacement one.
So Bijan Robinson at number 5, you're all in, right?
No. No, I'm not drafting a running back at number 5. No one should draft a running back at number 5. It's a wasted value.
What are you saying that Jerry Jones of the Cowboys made a mistake when he drafted Zeke Elliott?
Very much. Just like when the Giants drafted
Saquon
Barkley up at the top. It's just there's no upside.
I mean, count the rings, man. Look at all the rings that they got. It's a short count, small count.
Yeah, it's a very small count.
Yeah, those guys typically don't bring you success.
I mean, the Titans are talking about trading Derrick Henry, who is their whole team.
That's because they already traded their whole team the previous year when they traded A.J. Brown.
So I just don't think there's a big running back market, because if there was a market for Derrick Henry, he'd already be traded, right? If someone team's like, hey, we'll give you a 1, okay, the deal's done, right?
Well, yeah.
So I think it's like a 3 or a 4 for any of these running backs. An Eckler, Henry.
Which one would you rather have as a secondary piece to Kenny Walker?
Man, I would love to see Derrick Henry.
I mean, he's the Thunder.
He is the Thunder.
Yeah, and he would love to run around with have to take a couple less carries, I'm sure. He's been run ragged for the last several years. I'd like to see him in a Seahawks uniform. That'd be okay.
Give me the running back combo of Ken Walker and Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yes, all day, every day, along with my wide receivers. We do still need a third wide receiver. Probably come in the draft.
Yeah. So is that guy's going to be the 5 pick, right? Receiver? No. Oh, damn. Okay.
No. We're still missing on the 5 pick here. Let me see. Anybody probably besides a running back or wide receiver.
So we're going to get a quarterback with the 5 pick.
It could very well be a quarterback. I'd really be curious to know who their guy is, because by the signings they've made it so there is no one spot that they have to draft in any of these picks.
John Schneider playing like 4D chess, man. He's got it down where best player available, number 5 pick, best player.
Number 5 pick. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the first 2 picks are
so we're going to get a safety.
No, probably not getting a safety here. We already spending $38 million on our safeties.
We did sign Jason Myers, our kicker. Missed that one in the rundown. We did re-up Jason Myers. He was good, so we're probably not going to get a kicker in with the 5.
Probably not with the 5 pick or any pick in this draft.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, we like our punter. Long snapper I guess he's fine. I don't know. He gets like $1 million though. So I mean, if you can long snap, get out there and practice, kiddos.
Yeah, that's a pretty cushy job. I mean, you're only having to go out there like
you have to run down the field a couple times, but that's about it.
I mean, you might have to snap ball for a punter 2-3 times, and then you got to snap on extra points or field goals. So you're talking maybe like 5 to 10 plays.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
A game, and you're getting $1 million.
So now the Seahawks, they still got that guy Nwosu at linebacker, right? We still have him. He got a 2-year contract, so we still got him for 1 more. And then with Devin Bush on the other side, and you get Bobby Wagner in the middle, you get Jordan Brooks coming back. D-line, you could use some more depth. So that Jalen Carter guy, he was out of Georgia and everyone loved him, but it seems to me that he hasn't played a ton because he was hurt. And then he's got this little oopsie-daisy car accident. Some people died, and I sort of lied about it. My bad. Pleads no contest to charges down in wherever, Georgia or wherever he was. And so has that sunk his ship? Is he still in play as a, number 5 pick? Or has he sort of dropped out of that? Is that a character flaw? Or is there like actual game problems with him?
I think that's just going to come down to how he does in interviews, right? Does the team buy into what he's saying? Because if the team buys in that the talent is there, and if you're going to get a Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, you're getting those game changers on the D-line that we all been talking about we want, right? We want the game wrecker, the guy that the other team has to prepare for.
Yeah, well, every team needs a couple of those guys along their defensive line, and even though those guys don't always make serious impacts in any game, for example, look at the Super Bowl. You had the Chiefs and the Eagles, two teams that get after the quarterback an awful lot, and neither of them even really touch the quarterbacks in that game. But it puts a lot of pressure on teams, and those guys win you regular season games. Those are the guys that will get you to the playoffs. But if you don't have them in the playoffs, it causes a lot of problems. So, yeah, Jalen Carter, I'm curious how far down the draft he falls. I don't think he's going to go at 5 to the Seahawks. I think you're going to have several of those. You're going to have a couple of those quarterbacks go before the Seahawks pick, and I think Jalen Carter's going to fall. I think they'll
the real question
pick someone else.
Is do the Cardinals trade out of the 3?
I think the Cardinals trade back one spot to the 4. I think the Colts move up to 3 because I don't think the Colts want anyone jumping in front of them, because it's the cheapest cost for them to do it. And otherwise they're like, any of the top 4 quarterbacks are fine with us. And it's like, yeah, that's the dumbass way to go. That's seriously, how often has there been the first 4 quarterbacks in any draft are all fine? Yeah. No, they're not. And you do not want to be taking the leftovers. So I think the Colts, if they really like Anthony Richardson or something, they'll move up to 3 to get that guy. Otherwise, honestly, they should punt and get out of there and try again the following year. Because
I guess the real question is there a market for other teams outside of the Colts to jump them? You start looking around the league, you've got teams that are kind of, the quarterbacks all kind of moved around what they're going to move around. And I don't know if there is a team, the Panthers already made their move.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So, the Panthers were sitting at number 9, and the Bears, a potentially very scary team next season with Justin Fields, but the Bears move down to the 9th spot. The Panthers move all the way up to number 1, so they'll get a guy. And, yeah, the market seems to be... There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks out there, but so many of these quarterbacks seem rather mediocre. And who wants to really move up and draft quarterback choice number 3 or quarterback choice number 4? A question that gets brought up, or that should have been brought up, was actually should Carolina have maybe weighed their options a little differently, and perhaps should they have tried to go after Lamar Jackson and paid the franchise tag cost of 2 first-round picks and the contract, or should they have paid the price to move all the way up to the number 1 spot, which was
a very
2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, DJ Moore. I mean, it
was very expensive to move those 8 spots.
Which one was actually is maybe a better value? Lamar Jackson's 25 years old. He's a former MVP, as everyone likes to keep reminding us, except that he's also finished the last 2 years injured.
I think that the better option would have been to sign Lamar Jackson, but I would have done it after the draft is over, so you're getting rid of next year's first-round pick and the year after first-round pick, rather than giving up this year's number 9 pick.
Big brain.
Let's think about this here. Be like, hey, Lamar Jackson, we're going to sign you. Don't worry, but we're going to do it after the draft so that we give, a 20-something pick next year rather than a 9 pick this year.
Yeah.
Don't worry, the money's here. We've got the money. Just shh.
I was looking
wink.
I was looking for the rule exactly, and I have no idea where it's at. I'd have to go probably find the actual legal document. Everyone keeps saying you lose 2 first-round picks when you sign Lamar Jackson, but no one ever. I can't find it ever specified where as to which 2 first-round picks. I assume this year's and next year's, but if the draft had already happened this year, then it would be next year and the year after. So, and if you're the Panthers, why would you want to give up this year's number 9 pick? You'd give up theoretically a worse pick next year if you were to sign Lamar Jackson after the draft. So yeah, that's exactly what they probably should have done, but they didn't.
Yeah,
Instead,
I think it would be a better, because that was a lot to give up. I mean, DJ Moore's a very good wide receiver. 2 firsts, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not really 2 firsts, right? Because you're just swapping this. You're getting the 1 and they get the 9.
Yeah.
So it's really 1 first, 2 seconds, and DJ Moore. But it's still a lot to give up when it's college quarterbacks, very unproven, right? Lamar Jackson, he does have an injury history, but you also know what you're getting out of him, and you don't know what you're getting out of.
So here's a question about Lamar Jackson. You know what you're getting. Isn't that kind of the problem at this point? For a guy like Lamar Jackson, his game, you know exactly what it is. How keen are you to give him a huge contract knowing that he hasn't finished his last 2 seasons? And how long do you think he can keep this up for? Kyler Murray, looking at you, buddy. Russell Wilson, looking at you.
I am very shocked that Lamar Jackson turned down the $131 million or whatever it was, guaranteed from the Ravens, fully guaranteed. That's a lot of money. That's $40 million a year.
That is a lot of money, but that's kind of saying that's my question. Is like, okay, 141 fully guaranteed, yeah, but that's a longevity issue. He wants a 5-6 year contract. He wants to be secure because he knows his career can end very quickly, and teams know that too.
Yeah, the problem is that nobody's giving out fully guaranteed contracts. Just because the Browns are dumbasses and gave Deshaun Watson the full deal, they're idiots. No one else is giving him that deal.
I'm not saying a fully guaranteed contract for 5 years. I'm saying just a 5-year contract. If they did 141, those guaranteed, but then give me 2 more years at $40 million on the back end on top of that are non-guaranteed with roster bonuses or something. Would that type of thing get it done? Because that says to me that the team wants to invest and actually build around you. The 3-year contract is too short. They're not saying you're our franchise quarterback. They're saying, well, for right now, yeah, until you break, and then we're going to move on and discard you as quickly as we can. Because the thing is that everyone went for the super hyped, super athletic quarterback, and no one knew how long these guys will last for, and it tends to be a pretty short lifespan. They have a short shelf life for these super athletic quarterbacks. They can only go for so long. They're not really great quarterbacks anyway. Once they start losing athleticism, they really start running into problems.
So I was looking at the draft order here as we were talking about it, pulled it up, and see if there's anything that would really jump the Colts at 4, right? Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you got the Cardinals at 3, who, sure, they'd love to make a trade, get some extra draft capital, right?
Sure.
I can't see the Seahawks trading up. The Detroit Lions aren't trading up to get a quarterback. They got Jared Goff. They're going to roll with him.
They seem to like him.
Then you got the Raiders just signed Garoppolo, so they're not trading up to take a quarterback.
The future. It's the franchise.
The Falcons, who they drafted
Desmond
Ritter last year, whether he's any good or not, but I can't see them trading up 5 spots to give up a lot of draft capital.
Well, that's the other question is, so a quarterback's not going to go in these next spots, then Atlanta could potentially just sit where they're going to sit.
Yeah, they could just
grab their guy and have competitive with.
Sure. So Ritter. I mean, whether I'm going to guess that Stroud's going to go to the Panthers, the Texans. I have no idea they're a really weird franchise. They did just re-up their left tackle today for $375, but then they traded Brandon Cooks, so one less option that they can throw to.
Yeah, the Texans are a strange breed.
And they traded the Brandon Cooks for a 5th and a 6th, and they paid $7 million of his salary this year, just so they could get a 5th.
That's they're playing 5D chess, man.
But it goes back to when the Seahawks kind of screwed them over and the Jadeveon Clowney. And Jadeveon Clowney didn't end up working, but man, we kind of raked him over the coals on that deal.
So, yeah, what is your pick for the number 5 spot with the Seahawks? What do you expect? What do you think we're going to trade down? What are you putting there? Are you getting Jalen Carter? Are you hoping for Will Anderson? Are you hoping
I'm really interested to see. So, I mean, we kind of know what the first 4 picks are going to be in front of us, right? Panthers.
Do we?
Yeah, I think the Panthers, Houston, and the Colts are all taking quarterbacks. I think the Cardinals would like to trade down, but I don't think there's going to be any real offer, so I think they're going to take Will Anderson. And so then that leaves the Seahawks at 5
to take a punter.
Take a punter, yeah. You're draft eligible. No, you don't want to take the chance of getting hit by these big guys rushing you.
No,
not for $1 million or whatever the punters make.
No, I'd be so scared. No.
So there's gonna be a lot of options, and there could even be a quarterback play there.
Would you take Anthony Richardson if he was available at 5?
That is the guy that was cuddling up close with Pete Carroll at the Combine. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't mind it just because the Geno Smith deal isn't like prohibitive to get out of after like 2 years, and if you have to sit Richardson for a year to let him learn. I've never been a big fan of drafting a quarterback that has like 12 starts. It doesn't seem to ever work out. Give me the guy agree. With 3 years of starting. You had Justin Herbert. Just the guys that have more starts. Trevor Lawrence. They're just more. I just don't like drafting guys that have 1 year.
Well, they have a longer track record, and so you can see exactly the mistakes that they've been making and real improvements. Short term, I mean, it's small sample size theater is what you're seeing, and what you could see, what you think might be actual improvement is just, luck. They didn't make the stupid decision.
I'm actually wondering, think about it, is there going to be like a quarterback free fall, right? So the top 2 picks are obviously going to make quarterbacks, right? But after that, like, what if the Texans guy isn't there? Or not the Texans, but the Colts. What if the Colts guy isn't there? Then do they reach? Or do they just let it go and draft a defensive player?
I think someone like Will Levis or an Anthony Richardson. I don't see Anthony Richardson falling just because of the Combine performance, but I could see someone like Will
Underwear
Levis.
Olympics. Woo!
Yeah, I can see someone like Will Levis who has been sort of helium all season, falling.
Let's talk about Bryce Young falling just because of the height.
Yeah, that could absolutely happen. There's so much helium, so much hype around all of these quarterbacks that I don't believe in any of them, and I think
what
teams
if the
are tired
quarterbacks
of
were
getting
falling till where the Seahawks second first round pick is?
Well,
then
possibly, but I don't think they'll fall that far. But look at a guy like Zach Wilson. Look how many failures there have been at the top of the first round for quarterbacks and teams reaching that. Why do teams keep getting burned? And why do you keep doing it to yourselves? Stop it. Be a little bit more realistic in your expectations.
They
of
were
these guys.
a little bit more last year. Last year the first one was Kenny Pickett going in the mid-first round to the Steelers.
That's still incredibly high for a guy that really
Pickett did have a pretty good rookie year, though. I didn't really like Kenny Pickett, but he did play pretty decent, better than my expectations were for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not all that enthusiastic about it.
But there was no rush at the top of the draft. Like, he's a quarterback. We got to get all the quarterbacks in the first 2 picks. Come on, guys. Let's get all the horses together.
Yeah, well, there's always so much hype around the quarterback spot, and, rightly so, but teams are reaching too much, and they're getting burned, and that's just not a great thing. However, the Seahawks are in a relatively okay spot, certainly better than they were expected to be in at the 5 spot, though, damn, had we not... If only we had got that 3 pick.
Well, the Chargers would not have fucked us, but the Chargers the Chargers.
The Chargers charged it. They charged it. Any other fun things from around the league that you?
I don't think there's really any surprises other than the Seahawks really kind of being active in the first week, which they're generally not, and they generally don't give out that big deal like they gave to Draymond Jones. So that was kind of surprising, but we all know that the D-line was a big emphasis.
Yep.
So
yeah, well, they had to get out there and make something happen. You can't always pick up everybody's leftovers and expect to be okay. But I think that's it for us here. Seahawks preview here at the Gray Villain podcast. All right, we're coming back. We're going to start doing these a lot more often as baseball season picks up. Mariners and the Seahawks keep it going. Draft is coming up here pretty soon, next few weeks.
Don't forget about the Sea Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Can't forget about our Sea Dragons.
XFL. Yeah, I haven't watched a single game, so that's how much I care about that. Anyway, we are out. See you next time. Laters.
Later.